everybody, it is lovely to have you here with me this Sunday, and I do hope that our wee time together is a blessing for you. And do stay tuned until the end of the video, as I'll be showing you how to make a St. Bridget's cross in just a short while, as it's the feast day of Saint Bridget here in Ireland in just a few days' time. Our first song on today's show was written by Thomas Doherty, and Thomas is actually known as the father of gospel music in America. He was born in Georgia and he wrote thousands of songs in his lifetime. He was really into blues and jazz music, so he wrote lots of those types of songs, but then he had a really big conversion and turned his gaze towards gospel songs. This song today is one of his more popular ones. This is Take My Hand, Precious Lord. This song was actually written after a terrible tragedy in Thomas's own life. These are his own words. He says, "Back in 1932, I was 32 years old and a fairly new husband. My wife Nettie and I were living in a little apartment in Chicago." He says that one hot August afternoon he had to go to St. Louis, where he played song after song, and when finally he got to sit down and take a rest, in the steaming St. Louis heat, I got a Western Union telegram. I ripped open the envelope. Him and his wife Nettie were just expecting their first child. Pasted on the yellow sheet were the words, "Your wife just died." When I got back, I learned that Nettie had given birth to a boy, and he said that he went between grief and joy. But that night, the little baby boy died too. And he said himself that he fell apart. He closed himself away for days, and he didn't want to speak to God. He didn't want to sing any gospel songs. But rather than turning back to that jazz and blues music that he once loved, he turned his gaze towards God. And we have this beautiful song that he wrote just then. This is Take My Hand, Precious Lord. And I think that when we know what the author of these songs went through, their words really come alive and we know their heart behind them. And if Thomas could reach his hand out to take our Lord's after such tragedy in his own life, maybe we can reach our hand out and take his today, because with our hand in his, we are always going to be okay. This is Take My Hand, Precious Lord.
When my way grows drear, precious Lord, linger near. When my light is almost gone, hear my cry, hear my call, hold my hand lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. When my work is all done and my race here is run, let me see by the light thou hast shone that fair city so bright, where the lamp is a light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. through the storms, through the night. Lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home.
We hope that you enjoyed Take My Hand, Precious Lord. And as the author himself, Thomas, wrote, he said he hoped that his songs would lift people out of the muck and mire and bring them hope. Our next song today is Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus. And what a change it makes. It changes everything. With our eyes on Jesus, no matter what is going on around us, we have that deep peace and joy. Because with our eyes on Him, we know we are going to be safe. This is Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus.
Oh soul, are you weary and troubled? No light in the darkness you see. There's light for a look at the Savior, and life more abundant and free. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in His wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. Through death into life everlasting, He passed, and we follow Him there. Over us sin no more hath dominion, for more than conquerors we are. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in His wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. His word shall not fail you, He promised. Believe Him, and all will be well. Then go to a world that is dying, His perfect salvation to tell, and keep your eyes upon Jesus. Let nobody else take His place, so that hour by hour you may know His power, till at last you have won the great race.
I really hope that those two wee thoughts from our first two songs today really inspire you during this week ahead. because with our hand in His and our eyes on Him, there's nothing in this world that can bring us down. Now I'm going to show you how to make a St. Bridget's cross, and I'm sure that many of you here in Ireland have made them plenty of times before in your lifetime, but just in case you'd like to make one, or for those of you around the world who'd like to join in, and you in Ireland, you can join with me and make them here, we can do it together. Here is a wee easy way to make a St. Bridget's cross. I'm going to show you how to make an easy St. Bridget's cross. I'm sure many of you know about St. Bridget and her prominence here in Ireland. As I make this cross, I'll just share a wee bit about her as well, for you to get to know this young woman who is such a prominent saint. She's one of the 3 patron saints of Ireland, St. Patrick, St. Columba and St. Bridget. So you'll need some rushes to start with, and you can get these in any field in Ireland. I'm sure they're so abundant here. You'll also need some scissors. You'll need some elastic bands. You can use any colour of these. Sometimes we would use the colours of the flag of Ireland, so you can use any colour you want. And then with your rushes, you're going to start off kind of with the numbers of the clock. So you're going to go 12 and 6 with your first rush, and we're going to do it as if we're using the clock. So we're going to go 12, 6, 3 and 9. So our first rush we're going to place at 12 and 6. Then we're going to get our second rush and put it across, bend it across to the number 3. So you can see here now we've got 2 rushes. Number 1 is facing up and down 12 and 6, and then our second is going to be bent across the first rush to number 3. Then we're going to take our third rush and bend it again down to number 6. So this is going to form the base of our cross. It's tricky to get the first little bit right, but once we get it, we'll be flying. The first 4 rushes, once they're in place, are the base of the whole cross. So our fourth rush is going to go across to number 9. And as you can see now, we have a very simple cross already. So we have 12, 3, 6 and 9. And I'll just take that apart and show you it once more, as it's a wee bit tricky to get the start down. So our first rush is facing up and down, numbers 12 and 6. Our second rush, we're going to bend across. We can either use north, south, east and west, or whatever way, but I'd like to do 12, 3, 6 and 9. So the second rush goes to 3. Third rush, bend down to number 6. And the fourth rush, we bend across to number 9. And as you can see, we have the basis of our wee cross. Now, we're going to turn the cross every time we're working on it to keep the rush we're working on down the way. And we're going to bend the rush across to number 9 each time. So turn number 9. So you can see this is what we're going to do every time. We're going to turn the cross in an anti-clockwise direction and put our next rush across to number 9. So we keep doing that. Turn anti-clockwise, bend the next rush over to number 9, turn anti-clockwise, bend the next rush over to number 9. And we keep doing this now until we get our cross. So as we weave, I'll just tell you a few wee things about St. Bridget. And I am going to make another cross now, just in a few seconds. So don't be worried if you haven't quite got the knack of it just yet. There'll still be plenty of time to get one made. Bridget is so well known here, even in our place names. If you live in a town or have a school or a well with Bridget in its name, send a wee comment and let us know. She gets a special name in Irish, Mura na Gael. This means Mary of the Irish. And she was held in such high regard, she was given the name Mary of the Irish. She was born in 450 in Doherty near Dundalk in County Louth. Her father, Doherty, was a chieftain of Ireland and he was a pagan. Her mother, Bracha, was a slave girl who was a Christian. Doherty kept Bridget and her mother as slaves, even though he was a very wealthy man. So Bridget spent her earlier life cooking, cleaning, washing and feeding the animals on her father's farm. Doherty actually sold Bracha off to another chieftain, but he kept Bridget. I hope you're all getting on well with your crosses. Hope they're coming along. And don't be worried, we'll make another one just in a few minutes so that you can see how it's done again if it's tricky. Bridget lived during the time of St. Patrick and was inspired by his preachings. St. Patrick had just arrived in Ireland about this time. There was no YouTube or internet like we have now, so he worked with the kings and rulers in their little kingdoms in Ireland, and if he converted the chieftains, then those in their wee kingdoms would also come to believe in God. So many scholars wrote about St. Bridget at the time. She was known to be generous and kind, especially towards the poor. She would give her father's possessions away to the poor, and when he'd give out to her, she would just say, "Christ dwells in every creature." Bridget's father was so mad, he tried to sell her off to the King of Leinster, but during the negotiations, she gave his prized jewelled sword away to a leper. Her father tried to strike her, but she said that she had given the sword away to God. And the Christian King of Leinster, recognising her faith and holiness, said, "Her merit before God is greater than ours." So as you're making your cross, you can just cut off each of the limbs of the cross that you don't need anymore and put your little elastic bands around. So be sure and do this nice and tight, as the crosses will loosen over time. Her father still wanted to marry her off even after this, and there were 2 suitors who had arrived to see her. She did not want to be married. She wanted to give her life to God and to look after poor, sick and elderly people. So she prayed to God, as she didn't want to be married. She wanted God to be her spouse. So it said that God answered her. She prayed that her beauty would be taken away from her so that no one would seek her hand in marriage. When the 2 suitors arrived in the morning, she had lost her lovely looks. She wasn't so pretty and they didn't want to marry her anymore, saying she'd lost an eye and things like that. Her beautiful looks returned, they say, better than ever when she dedicated her life to God. So hopefully your first wee cross turned out well, and we're just going to go ahead and make a second one now so that you can really get a good idea of how it's made. So again, just take your rushes and try to start off with 2 good strong rushes, and you're going to put that first one at 12 and 6, bend your second rush over to number 3, take your third rush and bend it down to number 6, and then take your fourth rush and bend it across to number 9. And these 4 rushes are the base of the St. Bridget's cross, and then we just keep weaving around that. So you turn it anti-clockwise then, and you hold this rush every time very tightly, and bend your next rush across to number 9. Again, turning it anti-clockwise. You're going to take your next rush across to number 9 again. So the story goes that, along with 7 others, St. Mel of Longford professed them to become nuns, and he gave a sermon on the 8 Beatitudes for the 8 women who were becoming nuns. They each took a Beatitude, and Bridget took, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall have mercy shown to them." This was very true of Bridget, as it said she was very kind, generous and merciful. News of her good work spread, and soon many girls from all over the country joined her. They set up a number of monasteries then in Meath, the most famous in Kildare. Kildare meaning the cell of the oak, her convent having been built beside an oak tree. She set up a joint monastery with a monk who later became a bishop, Conleth, a male monastery and a female convent together. She was the abbess of this convent, and the Abbey of Kildare was famous throughout Europe. I hope that your cross is coming along well now. She also founded a school of art, which had metalwork and illumination, which St. Conleth looked after. It was here that the famous manuscript, the Book of Kildare, was created. We know the story about her cloak, I'm sure, but just for any of you who haven't heard it before or can't remember, she had found the perfect spot beside a forest and a lake with good land for her convent. And she went to the King of Leinster, and he laughed at her and refused to give her any land. But she prayed to God to soften the king's heart, and then asked him, "Will you give me as much land as my cloak will cover?" He agreed, I think probably laughing, looking at Bridget's wee cloak. But she asked her 4 friends to hold a corner of the cloak and walk in opposite directions. The cloak grew and covered, I think it was 12 square miles. It's where the Curragh in Kildare is today. The chieftain in Kildare couldn't believe it, and he realised that God's hand was at work. He knelt before Bridget and offered them money, food and everything, and he himself went on to become a Christian and even began to help the poor. Bridget's miracle of the cloak was the first of many miracles that she worked for the people of Ireland. She died in 525 at the age of 75 and was buried in a tomb before the high altar of her abbey church. Because of the plundering of Kildare during the age of the Vikings, they decided it would be better to exhume her body. So they transferred it to Downpatrick, and it's now buried with the two other patron saints of Ireland, as we know, St. Patrick and St. Columkill. Later the grave was looted, but they managed to save her skull, and 3 knights travelled to Portugal to Lisbon. King Donis realised that this was a sacred relic of a saint, and he put it into a convent, where the nuns have actually kept it to this day. The 3 knights who brought the skull to Portugal are actually interred in that wall of that church as well. In 1929, 2 parts of that skull were returned to Ireland, so we could have her relic as well, one in Dublin and also one in Down. As well as her skull, her cloak was one of the things that survived, but there's only a wee bit, about 25 inches or so. After the Battle of Hastings, King Harold's sister fled after this battle, having lost both her brother and her husband, and she took this wee bit of cloak with her when she fled to Bruges in Holland. It's still there in the Sacred Heart Church there. It's a little bit of crimson coloured cloth. St. Bridget is the female patron saint of Ireland. She's also known as Mura na Gael, or Mary of the Gael, which means Lady of the Irish. Her feast day is the 1st of February, which is the first day of spring in Ireland, and the name of St. Bridget spread throughout Europe, not just Ireland. She was a very generous, kind and holy woman. She had seen a lot of hardships, so she's patroness of dairy maids, cattle, agricultural things, and she was also the patroness of abused children, among other things. So you can make your cross as big as you want, just keep adding rushes until you feel that it's the size you'd like. We make St. Bridget's crosses as a tradition here in Ireland to celebrate her feast day on the 1st of February. The crosses are made of rushes and we place them in our houses to help protect us. Years ago, they used to have rushes on the floor for heat and cleanliness too. So the story is that there was a pagan chieftain in Kildare who was dying. St. Bridget went to visit him and was praying with him. And in order to explain simply, St. Bridget took some rushes off the floor and weaved them into a cross. She explained to him what it meant and about Jesus and his crucifixion. He was converted as she wove and talked. Upon hearing what the cross meant, he asked to be baptized a Christian before he died. Since then, the cross of rushes has been venerated in Ireland. People gather in community centres or in schools now to make them here. Send me a wee comment letting me know where you like to make yours. Maybe this year you'll be joining others, or maybe you're making one right now joining us. It's beautiful to see the daughter of a slave have such an important place in Irish history. Her legacy is one of generosity towards the poor, a courage in sharing and defending her faith, and a pure heart set on loving God first. St. Bridget, pray for us. I hope that you enjoyed making your wee cross today, and your crosses the colour will change over time. And as you can see here, some of these crosses, I made one of them last year and possibly one the year before, and they do fade in colour, but I think they look equally beautiful. So you can keep yours and hopefully until next year, and thank you for making your cross here with me today. And I hope that you enjoyed learning a little bit about St. Bridget. Well, congratulations on making your first or your 100th St. Bridget's cross, no matter where you are in the world. And I'd love to know how you got on, so send me a little comment and let me know if you were able to make one and how it turned out. And here in Ireland, we always put our St. Bridget's cross up in the house during the year. I'm actually looking at one that I made last year in front of me right now. So my last song today is A Living Prayer. And I do think that this is one of my favourite songs that we recorded. It's the title track of our CD, A Living Prayer. I just love it because I think it's what I'd like my life to be, a living prayer to God. And I'm sure that many of you watching my little show today would love your life to be a living prayer as well. So just to let you all know, when I started doing my YouTube videos, I initially wanted to do them every second week, but I thought, oh no, I'll do them every week. Actually, I am going to have to go back to every second week, as there's just been so much learning, and I am not the best at all the technology. I've been learning how to do the recording and the video and editing and everything all myself, and just to try to bring you the best I possibly can. I am going to have to go back to every second week, and I hope that's okay. I really want you to feel the love of Jesus and to have that in your heart and to have a little blessing every week. So I am doing the best I possibly can, and hopefully I can only get better and the shows can get better. So thank you so much for your support and being here with me. And I do look forward to a couple of weeks' time already where we can be together. So here's a living prayer, and hopefully as we go about our time we can make our lives, no matter what we're doing, a little prayer to Him. Hopefully this wee song will inspire you today. And maybe until then, as the song say, we can reach out and say, "Take my hand, precious Lord," and put our hand in His. As we turn our eyes towards Him, we will know with our hand in His and our eyes on Him that we will be okay. Thank you so much for being with me, and do click that subscribe button and the little notification bell so that you will get notified when I do upload my next video in 2 weeks' time on Sunday at 4 p.m. God bless you all, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I'm looking forward to our next time together already. God bless. Goodbye.
In this world, I walk alone, with no place to call my home. But there's one who holds my hand, the rugged road through barren lands. The way is dark, the road is steep, but He's become my eyes to see, the strength to climb